by disinterring the wondrous yellow horde, we'd be able to keep ourselves in the style to which certain of our number would appear to have become accustomed.
Hello, Noel Price here with Some More Words Fail Me. For those of you who are regular viewers of this series, you'll recognise that the face at the microphone belongs to John Clark, and the voice, of course, to none other than Fred Dagg. Each week, John Clark records and writes a number of pieces which are broadcast around Australia on ABC Radio. He's one of several people in the cast of Words Fail Me who are as deeply involved in writing as they are in performing. This week, we're going to talk to some of them about this side of their work. And we're also going to be talking to some teenagers who've recently had some of their work published. But first, let's talk to John Clark. John, you've been writing and recording Fred Dagg pieces for 6 or 7 years now. How did you come to invent the character?
Well, it's a character who's always been around in my head ever since I was a little fellow. And so when I decided to be an entertainer, it was the logical thing to do.
Each Fred Dagg piece that you broadcast lasts for about 2 minutes. How long does it take to write one of them?
Well, it varies a bit, but generally it takes about probably half a day by the time I've read about the subject properly and then sat down and got all the facts and figures right and then actually written it out so that it's silly.
Is it difficult to produce 5 scripts every week? Do you ever find yourself stuck for an idea?
Yeah, I frequently find myself stuck for an idea, but when you have a deadline like that, you have to meet it. So when I get stuck for an idea, I've got to somehow get unstuck for it.
Do you actually enjoy writing?
Yes, yes, I do. I actually quite like the business of physically writing the stuff out. I think at about the pace that I can write. So it's a good way for me to do it, but being a performer as well means that I can sometimes write something that's not very good and perform the way out of it, and sometimes if I've got a cold or something, I put a bit of extra into the writing because the performance is not going to be as good.
Well, now we're about to have the great pleasure of seeing you perform Fred Dagg for Words Fail Me. Do you think he'll be saying anything of any great significance?
Oh, I think he seldom does anything that's not of pretty well enormous and national significance, and, well, we live in hope now.
Yeah, g'day. Now, I'd like to have a brief word with you today about some of the better TV programs for children. And now that we've got that out of the way, I want to talk about how to write a novel. Now, I do this in response to many thousands of letters we've had down here. Here's one, just to give you an example of the type of thing we're knee-deep in down here. Dear Fred, I think I have a novel in me. I think perhaps we all do. Signed, Budding Novelist. Here's another one. I would like to write a really interesting novel. At the moment, everything I do is just a little bit boring. I hope this comes right with time. I'm writing this for a friend. Yours sincerely, P. White. And thanks very much, Perce. Now, obviously, the first thing to decide is what sort of novelist you'd like to be. A tall novelist, a short novelist, or, in fact, a novelist of medium stature. Perhaps a modern novelist, a neoclassicist, or a pastoral stream of consciousness Gothic feminist. Now, next... you're halfway there when you've done that, incidentally. Next, you've got to sit down and pound out your actual novel, beginning each new sentence with a capital, of course, and remembering to number the pages very carefully indeed. There's nothing more frustrating to the reader than getting right through a novel and discovering that it was read in completely the wrong order. Next, you've got to get a main character. Let's not make any mistake about this. A protagonist will probably do if you don't mind cutting a few corners, and look for a plot. It's not really very important. It's just something to give you something to write about while your main character's in the toilet or changing hats or something. And then you'll have to find some style. The best way to find style is to steal it. This is what most novelists do. So let's have a look through history and see what's available. The novel was begun by several people. Richardson was one of them. Samuel Richardson, his name was. He's probably dead now. He was a very old man when I knew him. And also the other famous English novelist, of course, was Tolstoy, who came from a little village in England called Russia. And he discovered that with proper attention, the novel could get very thick indeed. And, of course, he subsequently sold the film rights and died in his own personal railway station. There it is. But, of course, the most important thing to do is inject local flavour into it, because the greatest possible achievement for the scrivener is to come up with the great Australian novel. Now, the one cardinal rule here is the character. If you have an interesting character in mind, drop them immediately or you'll ruin everything. If there's one thing the great Australian novel should not have, under any circumstances whatsoever, it's an interesting character. By all means, have a main character, but ideally he should be a character of unexampled tedium, and he should never do anything. Things can happen to him, by all means, but he is never an initiator of an action. And, of course, the things that happen to him should be terribly boring. Now, if by some fluke of the imagination you do find yourself with an interesting character, have him shot about halfway down page 1 by a boring character, and have your novel published by the University of Dubbo in a run of a couple of dozen, and if nobody reads it, you'll be up there with the cream of the crop. You get on with it. I'll get out of your way now. I'll see you later.
When I was walking to school on a Wednesday morning, I used to see the garbos doing their rounds. I liked to talk to them. "How you going, love, all right?" One of them used to shout, and he'd pretend to put an empty over my head or pinch me school bag. The others used to laugh and stir him. They said I was his little girl. All the garbos on that truck used to say, "Hello, darling," to me when I walked past. But now I don't see the garbos anymore. They do their shift an hour earlier. So, when I walk to school of a Wednesday morning, all I see are empty rubbish bins.
Nick, most people wouldn't think of garbage men as a subject for poetry. Do you often write about things from everyday life?
Oh, I don't know. It all depends on how it affects me, I guess, because, like the garbage man did affect me because it was happening to me. Like once I wrote a poem in a tram, but that was about a drunk, so I guess that could be classed as social comment. But, yeah, I wrote about ordinary things mainly.
How much of your time is spent in writing poetry? Do you tend to write something every week, say?
Oh, well, it varies. Like, sometimes you have what you call a dry period when you don't write anything at all because you can't write anything at all. And all of a sudden something happens or it's just the way you feel and all of a sudden the poetry's coming thick. You can't help it.
One of the things I like about your poetry is that you put fairly complicated ideas in very simple language. Does it take a lot of time and effort to write your poems?
No, usually I just bang them down. I mean, the more complex ones usually take about 4 or 5 hours, but the simpler ones take about 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
What do you enjoy most about writing? What sorts of things do you get out of it?
Well, the main thing I get from it is that it releases any tension that I've got. That's the reason that I started writing. And,
But what do you mean, it releases tension?
it does, because, like, you've got all these feelings in you and you're really uptight and you can't get them out, so you put them down on paper.
Well, you've been writing poetry for how long? 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
How long do you think you'll keep on writing?
As long as it comes, I suppose. If something's there, I'll write it down. My English teacher told the class to write an essay about the present as it would appear to us in the future. I looked at my paper for a minute, maybe 2, then 5. When I looked up, everyone else was writing. And I thought to myself, how am I supposed to write an essay on the present as I'll see it in the future, when the present is something I can't cope with now?
It was a very tough neighbourhood where I grew up. Any kid with 2 ears was a sissy. I spent my formative years with 27 miniature Van Goghs. And as a result of all that, I had to run the whole 14 miles home to get the suit and back in time for the funeral. So up I went down Sydney Road, up the Linda Street Hill, down Linda Street Hill, right-hand turn past St. Fidelis Primary Catholic School, short pause to say, Catholic dog, stink like frog, boogie, 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 and off again before the nuns got me. Very tough nuns. They were from the Holy Order of the One-Eared Nuns. I don't know, you may have seen them on television recently, where you right into the two fellas and they jump in their combi vans and rush off and film interesting religious aspects of Australia. It's called Ask the Christian Brothers. So off I went up the street, round the back of the house. I put on this 12-year-old suit, got a pair of black pointy toe shoes. My brother kept cleaning out his ears. Slipped them on, round, back up the street, round the lane, down the hill, up the street and round the lane and...
As somebody who started off as a student of architecture, what made you make the change to becoming a writer-performer?
Well, look, that was purely accidental in that I didn't have anything else to do. It was no choice of my own. I got the sack from my job and I drifted into it, basically. I was lucky, I guess. A lot of you kids out there could be lucky too.
Well, several people have praised you as being one of the most original of Australian comedians.
Yes.
Where do you get your ideas from for your routines?
Well,
where does your material come from?
Most of it comes from in here. This is my filing cabinet. I go around with bits of paper in my pockets, and I'll go to people's houses and borrow bits of paper off them, and I write everything that I ever think's funny down on little pieces of of paper, just hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper. Then about once every 3 months, I go and clean out all my trouser pockets and coat pockets, and then I make a nice pile of little bits of paper, and about 3 months after making the pile, I sit down and read it, and sometime after that, I write it into the bulk of the joke file, as I call it, proper.
Can you show us some of the material that you've got in there?
Oh, I'd think, it's encyclopedic. I mean, if you named a topic, you know, and I was working, here you'll see, here, so I was actually working on an index system where I'd got every topic covered. See, I've got things in here, funny things I once thought about roller skates. There's a thing called loneliness taught. I was going to teach people how to be lonely. There's doctors and there's bananas. A lot of stuff on bananas in there. I have a lot of funny ideas about bananas.
Once you've accumulated this massive material, how do you go about working it up into a routine?
Well, what happens, you see, is I start out with something that's about, say, that long, you know, it covers a period of time, say 5 or perhaps 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes, right? And that's what it is on opening night, and I do it in public for the first time. So the second night it's down to about here, with just the one joke that worked, and I do that. And then slowly it just gets new stuff every night, depending on what mood I'm in.
Well, now we're going to have a look at a piece that you've written especially for Words Fail Me.
I'm going to write this, yes. I'm going to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper. In fact, here it is. This routine that I'm about to write is going to be written on this very piece of paper here, and it'll be, you know, interesting.
Okay, good morning, class. Settle down, everybody relax. Hey, you, the exchange student, stop eating the desk. Now, you wouldn't do that at home, would you? Would you? Well, all right, you might, but it doesn't mean you can do it here. All right, class, settle down, at ease. Smoke if you wish. You, how high is Mount Everest? You don't know. What about you? Got no idea. Well, I think that's one for the teachers. Now, look, you've got to, if you don't know how do you expect to get a job if you don't know how? It's a jungle out there. It's a jungle. I should know. I had a job once. Now, my name is Quantock. Q-A-O Smith. My name is Smith. Okay. Now, are there any questions so far? Yes, Capel. Yes. Okay, fine. Well, that about brings us up to even. Now, look, there's a lot to get through. I'd like you to all turn to page 134 of your Women's Weeklies and take your pens and all draw a moustache on the Queen Mother, okay? That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? All right. The human body, feet, fingers, the whole box, and a little bit of hair and eyes and mouth. And today we're going to look at the human body, paying particular attention to the central nervous system. Now, what does the central nerve... Nobody knows? Capel, I'll ask you to give me a hand here to demonstrate the wondrous effects of the central nervous system. That's it. Just put your head under the lid of the desk and... See that? The central nervous system. Wonderful thing. Pain. Now, no talk about the central nervous system would be in any way complete without reference to the brain. The brain, nature's answer to the computer. 2 + 2, 4. Pretty quick, eh? Okay, now that's out of the way. Homework. A lot of homework to get through tonight. I want you to write an essay in 25 words or less on why teachers should get a lot more money and more holidays and chances to go out with beautiful television ladies. Now, the first neatest correct entry, of course, will win a Malvern Star bicycle with 12 consolation prizes of dinner for 2 at the tuck shop. OK, well, look, I've got to get back on strike now. It's a very busy day. Thanks ever so much. You were great. I really liked it. And I don't know how long you've been in the class, but come with me. All right, well, look, good luck with the exams. And, oh, look, don't forget we've got the sacrifice to the HSC goddess later on. One of the girls from First Form's giving her life for it. So I'll be off. That's it. That's basically it. That's the sort of thing I do, you know. Silly, really, isn't it?
They call me Spike at the place where I work, and I don't know why. Spike, take some more tables, will you? Spike, make some more legs, will you? Spike, sweep up this mess, will you? They never stop ordering me around. And I still don't know why they call me Spike. Maybe it's because you're a little prick, my brother says.
That's a very good poem, Spike. How long have you been writing poems?
Well, I've been writing poems just over a year.
What other subjects have you written about?
Mainly work. Because, like, over the Christmas holidays, I just work at the factory where my father works, and, like, I do all kinds of jobs and things.
And that's obviously where that poem we just saw came from.
Yeah.
Are you able to write poems straight off the top of your head, or do you have to spend a bit of time on them?
Well, when I get inspiration to write, like, it takes a while, but every so often when I feel like writing, I just sort of get a pen and paper and have a go writing.
And you write them, as a rule, the first time you write them, they usually work out, do they? Or do you have to spend a bit of time revising them?
Usually, if they're good poems, they stay as they are, but sometimes they need a bit of working.
Where do you do most of your writing? At home or at school or in the library?
Well, actually, late at night, I usually sort of thinking while I'm lying in bed. I get an idea and I just sit up and sort of, I have to write it or else I can't sleep.
Terrific. Well, we're going to have a look at another of your poems right now.
Miss Cully, a teacher, walked out in the middle of a politics class because she was bored. I only thought students got bored.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Debbie.
Welcome to Brain Space for this week.
And this week, Debbie, we examine the significance to the English throne of Princess Anne's impending baby, which could become the next king or queen of England if the Queen's corgis get rabies and bite everyone in line to the throne. But the baby wouldn't get bitten because it would be in hospital having its blood transfumed.
How do you know this, Tim?
Well, if the Queen's corgis mix too much with Irish red setters, you know.
Oh, I understand that, Tim, but about the blood transfusion.
Oh, well, Debbie, you see, Princess Anne has inherited royal characteristics, right? Like the proboscis extensus, which is a growth concerning the nose. And blue blood, which is because they're rhesus negative. And rhesus is just another word for monkey, and I think you can see the connection.
And you being an Aquarian, have an affinity with Princess Anne, who, as we know, is an expert exponent of Aquarian sports, in which she and the horse movers won. And, of course, Charles is also into Aquarian activities and is heavily concerned with water polo.
Oh, polo, yeah, that's a hereditary, sometimes crippling disease.
Right.
Confined to the royal family and people who have a lot of money and suck up to them.
Right.
But, like, Debbie, who'd want to live in Buckingham's Palace anyway?
The voices of Tim and Debbie belong to Steve Blackburn and Mary Keneally, both of whom have done a great deal of work for Words Fail Me. Tim and Debbie appear in an ABC radio program called The Other End of the Dial, and after only a year, they've built up quite a following. In fact, many people consider that the scripts they write are among some of the cleverest things around.
They would have been... Right. No, listen. Like, if the Beatles had got their heads around, she relates to you in a meaningful way, positive,
yeah,
they would have been onto something really...
more meaningful.
Really... No, I can't say meaningful again. They would have been onto something really good.
Really good, that's right.
Because when something's just sort of ordinary, it's fantastic and it's unreal and it's amazing, but when something really impresses Tim and Debbie, it's good. Like Shakespeare's good and Rod McEwen's amazing.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Is it difficult to write with someone else? Is it more difficult than writing alone?
Well, before this, I did for 12 months a thing for the same radio program, and that was very hard to write.
That was something you wrote on your own?
Yeah, because the pressure was enormous, and it was quite lonely, and I had to get it right, and I had to do it myself, and I couldn't ask anyone, and it really was, you know, very hard. But when there's somebody else to bounce off and somebody else feeding in an entirely different way of thinking. I mean, Steve throws in a lot of terrific way out sort of ideas.
How long does it take you to write a normal Tim and Debbie script?
It takes about 3 hours, doesn't it?
Yeah, 3 hours.
A lot of that's due to the fact that the typing is pretty you know, one finger at a time.
We usually rely on the typewriter to write a lot of it. We sort of manipulate the typewriter, but it actually does the thinking, I think.
Do you enjoy the writing as much as the performing?
Yes, oh, terrific fun.
What sorts
Really
of it? In what way do you?
Well, I mean, we find Tim and Debbie hilarious. I certainly find Debbie wonderful because, I mean, Debbie's so fake in every way.
We like to play around with the two characters so that they're clashing at sometimes, and other times they've obviously just had a fight and they're patching it over, or they're trying to...
Because they live in the same house. They live in a vegetarian household, see, and things can go wrong if someone takes somebody else's yogurt, you know. Things can go wrong.
Well, we've seen you hard at work here writing a script for Tim and Debbie about pop music. Now let's see what they have to say about the subject.
Oh, incredible. Wow. Oh, amazing. It's brilliant. More excellent than brilliant.
What are you on about, Tim?
It's really hard to explain, Debbie. I was just thinking about this really amazing record that was really important in my development as a personal type human being. It was just unreal.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
Oh, Joe Dolce, Shut Up Your Face. It's incredible.
Incredible?
Yeah.
Do you ever stop to think, Tim, that it might have just been fundamentally racist?
Racist? Oh, no, it's not racist, Debbie, because Joe Dolce's Italian, so I can't be racist.
Oh, come off it, Tim. That's the most fake Italian accent I've ever heard, and there's nothing more racist than an inaccurate accent.
I don't get your mandala in a knot, Debbie. I mean, Joe Dolce's of Italian descent.
Is he really?
Yeah. American Italian, which makes it more Italian.
Well, Tim, I mean, if he's of Italian descent, that puts a whole new complexion on the matter.
Right. Yeah.
Like, because, you know, I can see a direct corroboree with Dante's Inferno,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
where he descended into the underworld, and it was a really hellish experience, which reiterates.
The Dante's an incredible sculptor. I love his work.
Which gives us, again, a firm basis for, you know, seeing that Dante had an incredible influence on 20th century pop music, like Fizz Ed, the Rolling Stones. Have you seen Your Mother Baby Standing in the Shadows? Which is obviously, have you seen Beatrix Baby Standing in the Shadows?
You know, that could have been just what I was thinking, Debbie. You know, like I don't know what Dante's first name was, but it was probably Joe.
Yeah.
Which therefore implies and follows on that Joe Dolce is a reincarnation of Joe Dante, and therefore spearheading a whole re-renaissance in Italian art, and so it's not racist.
No, but it would have been racist if an Australian had sung it, because an Australian isn't an ethnic.
An ethnic, no. But if Joe Dolce had sang The Pub with No Beer in the Colosseum, that'd be racism of a different colour.
Which he wouldn't do, Tim, because he's got too much musical taste.
Musical taste, right. And that's what Leo Sayers on about, you know.
Huh?
Whoa, whoa, yay, yay, I love you more than I can say.
I love you twice as much tomorrow.
Yeah, like what Leo Sayers trying to say is that by tomorrow, he'll be twice as incapable of verbalising his feelings on the matter.
Right, and then with the permutations and combinations of time being an ongoing situation, he'll reach a point where he's ultimately unintelligible, but not unintelligent.
Right, yeah, like what Leo Sayer is saying is that whoa, whoa, yay, yay is more meaningful than mere words. And he's being phonetic, you know, which is really good for the Phoenicians as an ethnic minority. And I mean, like if the...
Like Leo Sayer is scientifically sound without sounding scientific.
Yeah, right, like if the Beatles had started their careers by singing She Relates to You in a Meaningful Way, affirmative, 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 it would never have caught on, right?
Wow, look, hey, look here, look, split ends.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Aren't the haircuts clever?
You know, it's only taken them 5 years to achieve a sound that's just like the early Beatles.
I know, they're really clever.
So clever.
And look, you know, their suits are clever.
The suit's amazing.
Since we recorded this program, the 4 writer-performers we've talked to have gone on to do other things. In particular, John Clark is doing a lot less of Fred Dagg and concentrating on film work. Happily, writing and experimenting with ideas continues to be an important part of all their lives.